Good evening and welcome to another edition of Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, broadcasting live from beautiful Cape May County, New Jersey. Cape May County just sounds awful. I feel like I need to stop saying Cape May County, New Jersey, but that's where I'm broadcasting live from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I've missed you all terribly, just so you know, and I am broadcasting live via the fabulous folks at SHR Media and streaming live on Facebook. Hello, all of you in the Facey stream. Welcome. Good evening. I hope you all are doing well and have had a fabulous week. My guests on the show today for the first hour, I have Mr. Michael Blank. He is a real estate expert, author, entrepreneur, and CEO who's going to talk to us about how to get financial freedom with real estate investing. Very excited about that. And then the second hour, we will have another Melanie. Imagine that. Melanie Johnson, who is a 10-time best-selling author. She's a TED Talk speaker and a CEO of Elite Online Publishing. So excited to have her on the show as well. Want to welcome one of my sponsors, John Campbell, to the Facey Chat. Welcome, Kenneth, Jacqueline, Ellen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And also, of course, want to give a shout out to all of my sponsors, the Tax Mama, the #1 Tax Mama. Pick up her new book, Trump Tax Cuts. It's fabulous. I actually got my copy the other day, and why I do not have that to show you on the Facey stream, it's just a disgrace. I apologize, but I'm going to show it to you definitely next show. Or perhaps the next hour. It's a fantastic book, and she talked to us about it a couple of weeks ago, but you should pick it up. Oh, you call me Angela Bassett. Now, Angela Bassett is like 12 years older than me, so I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not yet. Just saying. No, I'm just kidding. She looks fantastic. I'll take it. Thank you for the compliment, Daniel. Hello there, Josh, in the Facey Chat. Welcome. And I also want to give a shout out to MrCreditRepair.biz. Thank you so much for sponsoring and supporting the show. You guys rock, and you're super flexible. And especially since I had to cancel my show at the last minute. Unfortunately, for those of you who may not be aware, one of my very good friends passed away, and I actually would like to dedicate today's show to her. Her name was Katie Lockwood. She was only 47 years old. She's actually a year younger than I am, and she passed away suddenly. That's what I was dealing with last Friday, and that's why I canceled the show at the last minute. So I apologize to you guys for doing that, but you know, life happens that way sometimes. So I apologize, and prayers going out to the Lockwood family, of course, who I'm very tight with. They call my mom. They're like my brothers and sisters. So it's a really hard time right now for the family and for me and for all of her friends. So, but I did want to let you guys know that that's what happened to the show last week, and that's why I was a bit of a no-show, and I apologize, and I thank my sponsors for being flexible about missing that show. So what's going on in the news? Well, we still have a government shutdown, meaning federal workers did not get their checks today. And listen, I didn't catch much of the news today because I was super duper busy, but I did catch the prez talking today about it. And he seems to believe that everybody, all those hearts for one of my sponsors. I love it. Seems to think that everyone is super supportive about the situation. I don't know. If I didn't get a paycheck today, I'd be feeling some type of way. And you know, Congress is off on vacation. Well, not on vacation, but they're off for the weekend, and they've been off since yesterday. Like, you took Friday off and people aren't getting their paychecks. Something's got to get, it just seems to me that they should be able to fix this. And look, there's so much to this. Republicans should have did their job in December, but that's water under the bridge. We also need border security. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And there's so many facets to that situation. It's not even funny. It's just, it's a really, really ugly situation. It's a shame that it's come to this, I think, because when people are not getting their when people are not getting their money, it's a problem. But it's also a very, border security is a serious problem. I'll give you guys an example. Some of you all know that I'm a public school teacher. And one of the things that I have, you always have to, a lot of places that you work, you have to get a physical, right? Drug test, all that regular stuff. Actually, FYI, most teachers don't get drug tested, which I find is kind of hilarious. Which my job doesn't drug test either. But what we do get is a TB test. We get tested for TB as teachers. And I always wondered why we got tested for TB. So I actually, I asked the nurse the last time I got tested, last time I had to get a new job, which was recently. I said, why is it? I laughed. I said, I figured it was an old law or something like that, that they just had not updated. I said, how come teachers have to get tested for TB? And the nurse told me straight out of her mouth, because of the immigrant population bringing TB into the schools, period. She didn't hesitate. That's what she said. She didn't even say illegal immigrants, but here's another unknown fact you may not know, that public schools are not allowed to ask status of kids. So if you live here, and this is not an anti-immigrant rant by any stretch of the imagination, I'm just giving you the facts. So if you have a kid and you live here and they're going to your school, you have to have all these vaccination records and all this stuff, right? But if a kid happens to be undocumented and they go to the school, they don't have to have that stuff. So it's there's a health issue there. I mean, I have a relative who has a condition where her immune system is compromised. I'm very worried about that situation. She gets so much as a cold, it can be death dealing. So, those are the kinds of real world issues that are a concern, why we need to, in my opinion, why we need to just know who's here, and why we need to make sure that like all the kids have their health stuff up to date and they're not bringing stuff into the classroom that, that could be a problem. I would hate to bring something to my relative accidentally just because I'm carrying it, because I have at this point, a passive immune system, because I've been in education for 20 years. I've probably been around every germ there is, had pink eye like a billion times. So, when you're in that environment, you have that, but she does not have those protections. I'm worried sick about that, to be honest. So those are real issues that need to be solved, that our bureaucracy, like, it needs to be fixed. We need to figure this stuff out. I can tell you of another situation where, I've had as many as 3 kids in my classroom at once that speak 3 different dialects of Spanish. So it wouldn't even be a matter of me learning to speak Spanish, because there was 3 different dialects and from 3 different Spanish speaking countries. At one time I had a Spanish speaking student, a German speaking student, and I think a Russian speaking student. I kid you not, in one class. They didn't speak English. So you're like, so these are like the things that are going on just in the school system, not to mention the medical systems and the other public systems that need to be worked out, not to mention the stolen identities and all that stuff. But that being said, Congress needs to get their act together. They can't do what they're doing, which is nothing. Congress, President Trump, everybody, fix it. I don't care how and when, but get it done. Handle it. Rant over. Now we're going to talk about some fun stuff. Ooh, I talked to Michael Blank, who hopefully still likes me after that rant. But I talked to him a little bit before the show. I think it's going to be a fantastic guest. Looking really forward to speaking with him. We're going to take a 2-minute break really fast. We'll be back in a couple minutes. Thank all you guys for joining us. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We'll be back in a couple of moments.
The Los Angeles County Sheriff who threatened to physically remove ICE agents from county jails is either insane or seriously over-medicated. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, the United States of America is under serious assault by ongoing invasions of people from third world countries. Few people are more qualified than the dedicated ICE agents who answer the call to deal with the massive problem of illegal border crossers who cost American taxpayers $150 billion annually, receiving help that should be going to our military veterans, many of whom are homeless. Unfortunately, the Los Angeles County Sheriff, who obviously does not care about our nation's sovereignty and probably hates Donald Trump for working hard to protect our sovereignty, is yet another political barnacle working to suck the life out of our republic by defying the rule of law and setting another negative example of a disjointed government official working in concert with those who are hell-bent on destroying our exceptional nation way of life. Hopefully, that LA County Sheriff will soon rue the day to choose to work against the rule of law, and may God bless President Trump for working to preserve our national sovereignty. I'm Ron Edwards. Join me Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on AmericaMatters.us and 12 a.m. Sundays on Talk America Radio Network. Sponsored by the Tri-County Liberty Coalition.
What are the two most effective English words? Thank you. Just hearing them makes me warm inside. John Campbell makes it easier for you to spread the love. In a cordial way, of course. With John Campbell's Biz Social Personal Touch, send thank you cards to your grandparents, boss, or business partners. Our campaign store has pre-made templates and 5-touch campaigns specific to a number of industries to add a personal touch to any business communication. Want to make someone feel all warm inside? Think of John Campbell Biz Social Personal Touch at www.sendoutcards.com/personal touch.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. And I want to welcome to the show for the very first time, Mr. Michael Blank. Before I bring him on, I want to tell you a little bit about him. He is an entrepreneur, investor, and author of the book Financial Freedom with Real Estate Investing. He's also a coach and a leading authority on apartment investing in the United States. He's the CEO of Nighthawk Equity and a best-selling author and podcast host called The Apartment Building Investing. Hopefully it's not on the same time as mine. He's a columnist, real estate investor, and he's passionate about helping people become financially free in 3 to 5 years by investing in apartment building deals with special focus on raising money. Through his investment company, Nighthawk Equity, he controls over $24 million in performing multifamily assets all over the United States and has raised over $6 million. In addition to his own investing activities, he's helped students raise over 1,600 units valued at $55 million through his unique deal desk and training programs. He's been interviewed by top real estate podcasts, including Bigger Pockets, Joe Fairless, Get Rich Education, and Cash Flow Ninja, and many more. I've heard of all of these people, and they are fantastic. And now he can add Money Talk with Melanie to the list. And without further ado, the one and only Mr. Michael Blank. How are you?
Hey, awesome. It's awesome to be on your show, Melanie. Looking forward to it.
Oh, so am I. So am I. I'm so glad to have you on the show. And I love the fact that your focus is on apartment investing. But before we move forward, is there anything in your bio that I didn't cover that you'd like to tell my audience about?
No, you got it. And I really, the focus really is on, my passion really is helping people become financially free. And I've done so many shenanigans in life, from, software to flipping houses to restaurants. And so I've been peaking ever since reading Rich Dad Poor Dad in 2004. I've been on this journey, and mine was way too long, cost me way too much money. And so when I discovered the actual most direct path, which is real estate investing and a specific style of real estate investing, I really became passionate about it. And as I now interviewed dozens of people on my own podcast, it really motivated me to write this book around that, because the phenomenon was so common, but no one knew about it. So the more I interviewed other people, the more excited I got about this.
When I got the pitch for you to be a guest, I was super excited because I love, like I said earlier, I love the fact that you're focusing on apartment investing rather than investing in houses or investing in commercial real estate and things like that. How is investing in apartments different from other kinds of real estate investing?
Well, Melanie, the truth is not much. The problem is in people's minds, it's like a world of difference. It's like a gap that they can't seem to overcome. And so, if I were to start talking to someone about apartment building investing, describing the benefits, their normal response is, yeah, I've heard that before, but. And the two main objections is, but I don't have the experience, and but I don't have the money. So why don't I do this? Why don't I invest in single family houses for the next 5 or 10 years, and I'll take that experience and the money and I will roll it into apartment investing, which is not a bad plan. But you can do it much faster than that. And the truth is that while most people start investing in single family houses because that's what everybody else does, they quietly then actually retire from their job with apartment buildings. And more encouragingly, you don't need that first step. There's plenty of people who skip the single family house investing entirely, and it's actually relatively easy to overcome both of those objections, the experience side and the money side.
Really? Well, tell us.
Yeah.
Well, please. As you're talking, my wheels are turning, and I'm going, well, of course, because if you get this one deal done with apartments, you're kind of rolling. Right? I mean,
yeah. Well, you are, but that first deal is so overwhelming. The idea of that first deal is so overwhelming that most people don't even attempt it.
That I can understand, but the mechanics are about the same. So I would think that the mechanics are about the same, but I don't know much about it. So tell us about why we should do it that way. Like, what are the steps? How should you, if you're a newbie to investing and you're thinking you might want to start real estate investing and you want to encourage someone to do apartment investing as opposed to doing the single house slow plan, where would you tell them to start?
Well, I would start them at overcoming their mindset about these two objections I just talked about. Because here's the thing, I can tell you the 10 steps to your first apartment building deal, but if you're still hung up on, hey, you know what, I don't have the experience and I don't have the money, I'm not having a conversation with you, you're not listening to me. So you have to have that conversation first with people. So maybe talk about those two things first, right? So you say, oh my gosh, okay, Michael, I get it. Passive income, this is great. But man, how do I get into that? How do I overcome these two problems? And let me start first by saying when I flipped houses, like I've been down the path, I flipped 3 dozen houses, and I thought I was the man. I call up the broker, the apartment building broker. I said, I'm the man. And the first thing that they said to me, hey, the man, why don't you send me your proof of funds, and I'll send you more information about the apartment buildings I have. And I'm like, well, shoot, I don't have any proof of funds. But look at all the houses I flipped. And what I realized was that this quote experience I got with a single family house investment didn't actually translate into the commercial real estate at all. So I thought I was getting experience, but I actually wasn't. And then what I discovered is that there's actually things you can do to fix this problem, and those fixes actually apply to situations where you don't even have any investing experience at all. So there's 2 ways you can overcome the experience, Melanie. The first one is you've got to educate yourself, and the reason for that is because the commercial real estate has a particular style of language. Now, it's not complicated, something you can do in 2 or 3 weeks. It's not very complicated, but you have to have a certain language. And the second thing you need to do is you need to have a team around yourself. Because think about this, I'm calling, if I call up a broker, and I call up, I say, hey, Sam, I'm working with a group of high net worth individuals. I have Frank over at Property Management XYZ, and we're expanding into the Atlanta market. Are there any kind of deals that you can forward to me, right? And that's a different conversation when I'm talking about the team I build around myself, because the focus is not on me, but it's on my team. So when you approach brokers in that way, they will almost never ask for proof of funds because they're going to take you seriously. And it's actually relatively easy to overcome your lack of experience if you have people around you that have that experience.
That is very true, and that applies in a lot of different areas. Because I'm thinking about what you said, and I'm like, I use that strategy with a lot of stuff. It's kind of a mind game.
It's a little bit, but you know, as an example, I have a 20-year-old Air Force cadet, Jake Boland, 21 years old, and he brings us a $10 million deal, and somehow magically he got the broker to take him seriously to the point where he put it under a letter of intent. Now, how did he do that? He did it exactly in the way I just described. He educated himself, he sounded intelligent, and he didn't talk about himself. He talked about his property manager, his SEC attorney, his CPA, right, his advisory board that he had built. And now all of a sudden, they're not talking about Jake and the fact that he's 21 years old. They're talking about the team he's built. And all of a sudden, these brokers are taking him seriously. So that's it's actually relatively easy to overcome the lack of experience. And you don't need 10 years of single-family house investing.
Okay. And you also don't need anything like a real estate license or anything like that.
That's right. It actually gets in the way of things. Because oddly, the commercial real estate brokers don't like sharing. So if you come on with a real estate license and you want a commission split, they're going to put your offer at the bottom of the pile. So it actually hurts you in the commercial real estate, not unlike the residential.
That makes so much sense. That makes a lot of sense. So they would prefer to have somebody that's just coming in with the money and doesn't have it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a whole lot of sense. Okay, very good. Got it. I'm trying to think. Okay, so you don't need a real estate license. You need to have the right kind of language, be able to ask the right questions, and be able to tell the brokers the right things in order for them to finance you.
Right, and you need money, right? So people say, well, I don't have money, or maybe I have some money, but I don't have $1 million laying around.
Right.
So what's your solution to that? You know, and they they throw up their hands and they go, well, see, it can't be done. I need to save about 10 years to get $500,000 so I can buy one of your apartment buildings. But the truth is, money can be raised. That's the truth. It happens all day long, and especially in this environment, with the uncertainty of the stock market, people are scratching their heads going, what else is there besides the stock market?
For sure.
And if you come up to them and you say, you know what, I have an alternative, let me tell you about it. But the alternative is above average returns, lower risk than the stock market, and extraordinary tax benefits, they'll be very interested in talking with you. So the ability to raise money is not a hard skill to learn at all. And in this environment, it's actually relatively easy. So the way you overcome your lack of resources is to raise money from people who actually want to talk to you about this.
Okay. Where do you find those people?
Well, you start with your sphere of influence. You start with friends, family, neighbors. Now, my advice is if you want to think about this, you kind of create like this mind map, right? This mind map of all of your social circles. You got your neighbors, you got your coworkers, you got the church, synagogue, you got Boy Scouts, you have sports, poker, right?
Right.
And then you write all the people in those, and pretty quickly you probably get like 50 people together that you probably know. Well, now that's your target list. And the only thing that's different now in the target list is that you are a little bit more intentional about your conversations with those people. I mean, you're not going to talk about, sports and the weather. You are going to share your enthusiasm with this new thing that you're doing, which is this apartment building investing. And that's all you're doing. You're more intentional. And some of those people will be very interested. And you ask them things like, if they're interested, they'll say, hey, anyone who might be interested in investing with me, and they might say, well, my boss might, or my brother might, or I might. And so you essentially use your sphere of influence to get referrals. And there's a variety of networking things you do, but the point is you're kind of just warm chattering with everybody around you. And you're sharing your excitement and enthusiasm, and out of those conversations will become some people who have some money and they're looking for a good place to put it. They have a real problem. They don't know where to get consistent returns, and they're paying too many taxes. So they have a problem. So if you come down with a solution, they're going to want to talk to you. Now, if they don't have any money, they're not going to want to talk to you, but it's a matter of using your sphere of influence to reach those people.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, do you have a recommended number of investors to seek out? The first thing that comes to mind, it's funny, I was talking to my students today about doing a group project, and this kind of reminds me of a group project, and we were all lamenting how we hate group projects, and I explained to them that I had to assign at least one because my boss is a big fan, but I hated them too because I'm that kind of student. Like, I'd just rather do everything myself. So, like, I understand, but you guys are doing one anyway because my boss likes them. But this reminds me of a group project. And so do you have a recommended amount of people, like where you might want to keep it, or does it depend on the amount of money that you're seeking? Like, how do you go about organizing that?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really depends on what phase of the process you're in. If you're just starting out, you know, your world is going to be your sphere of influence and maybe people they know. So you're like maybe 2 removed from a person. And you kind of, what you do is you define the scope of your first deal based on how much money you think you can raise from that sphere of influence. And it might be very little. It might just be $25,000, but you know what? The $25,000 might be enough to buy a duplex in Cleveland. Now, a duplex isn't very expensive in Cleveland, as you know, or anywhere in Ohio, really. It's much more feasible. What happens is it triggers that law of the first deal I write about in my book. And a magical thing happens when you start getting into a multi-unit, like even if it's only a duplex, an amazing thing happens. And when you trace back the roots of so many people who have quit their jobs with multifamily real estate, many of them start with a duplex. And it's odd. In the beginning, I used to think, oh gosh, go big or go home. But after studying it some more, I no longer believe that, because what happens is that duplex might take a really long time to do it because people are really afraid, and it might take 12 or 18 months to do it, but then a magical thing happens. A second deal comes around within just weeks of that first one, and it's never a duplex. It's normally a 10-unit. And after that 10-unit, the next one is about 25 units. And that fourth one is a 50-plus unit. So this law of the first deal happens over and over. It's like this universal phenomenon. It's triggered by that first deal, which is why I focus all of our training and mentoring resources on helping people do that first deal, because if I can do that, everything else happens automatically. And that's what really gets me excited about this business.
That sounds awesome. I mean, again, like I said, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm like, that's making a lot of sense. Because it's even though it's quote unquote only a duplex, it's still the same principle. It's still an apartment, and you still have that same, I would think, that same gratification, so to speak, of doing an apartment deal.
That's right, but it's different. It's different than a single family house.
Right.
Because your mind is different. Now, there are single family house investors who happen to have a duplex, but they have a single family investing mindset. And the person who has a multifamily mindset has a different mindset. And so that duplex is a stepping stone. And the single family house investor may do a series of duplexes, but a multifamily investor who wants to quit their job in the next 1 to 2 years will use that as a stepping stone as part of a strategy.
I like it. And in any of your books, do you explain how to manage that money a little? I would imagine managing your money when you're doing real estate investing is a bit different than managing your money if, say, you owned a clothing boutique, because, you know, the plan is to do some reinvesting, right? I would think into more properties. So is the way you manage that deal and the way you manage that income a little different than the way you would do it with a regular, like, retail business or something like that?
Well, clearly, and having been in the restaurant business, it's, you know, you're or if you're in a capital intensive business, that's certainly a different thing. I think with a multifamily, another thing I really like about it is there's so many different ways you can get involved, and it really depends on who you are. If you have no money but you have hustle, you can go find deals and you can raise money and you can make something out of nothing, which is what entrepreneurs do all the time.
Right.
If you have a very demanding job and you have some money, you can get involved by passively investing. And then there's a hybrid, which is really cool. And you may or may not have money. You have hustle, and what you do is you raise money. All you do is raise money. You don't even find the deal. And you raise the money, and you bring the money to people like me or other people like me, and in return, you become a partner in the deal. So there's like at least 3 ways you can get involved, and the result is exactly the same. The result is that you get equity in a deal, which means that you get passive income and long-term wealth. And there's at least 3 ways that people get involved in that. It's amazing. There's no other business in the world that offers that kind of opportunity.
Very true. Now, when you're doing this, this assumes that as part of your team, because earlier today you talked about having experts on your team. One of those experts, I might imagine, is a property manager of some sort.
That's right.
That makes sense, because
critical.
Absolutely
critical.
Anybody who's ever done any kind of rental property, I mean, I rented out a house. Just managing that is a blanket nightmare.
Well, it really is, and I don't advise anyone to manage their own property.
Right.
First of all, there's people out there that do a better job than I could ever do. And number 2, what is really the best use of your time? The best use of your time is to raise money and find deals. Everything else needs to be outsourced, and that includes the management. That's one thing I love about the multifamily is it's an unnatural act to manage your own multifamily. Versus in the single-family house business, it's an unnatural act to have a manager for the house. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's one of the things that I like about the multifamily is it's not natural act if I want to manage yourself, because there's so many managers out there that will manage it for you. And you must take advantage of that, so that frees you up to find more deals and raise money.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because that is, when I was about to roll it over and get a new tenant, that's exactly what I was going to do. I think they were the management company I found was gonna do like 10% or something like that, which is nothing when it comes to the headache of managing a property. That is.
Yeah. That's right. And 10% is actually pretty high. In a multifamily space, you're normally around 5%.
Wow.
So you have some economies of scale, but good for you for hiring a manager to manage your single family. That's already totally a step in the right direction. If you have a bad manager, you have a nightmare. On the other hand, if you have a good manager, my goodness, you can go to sleep.
For sure, because managing something like that yourself, as much as you might want to do it, the details, it's just like starting any other business of your own. If you can outsource it and get it to some part of a team, you're much better off doing whatever it is that you do well and not getting caught up in the minutia. But the part that you're excited about, keep focusing on that.
Yeah, you can start from nothing, and in very, very short order, you can literally change your life. And that's why I wrote the book, because I'm not making this stuff up. And certainly my path wasn't that way. I had a pretty much a 10-year journey that was pretty messed up. But the people I studied had a pretty direct path. And so starting from essentially nothing to quitting a job in literally 1 to 2 years, that's interesting to me, right? And it's happened over and over again, and that's really what I'm excited about. And here's the other thing: financial freedom is an important step too, I think. Not a necessary step, but it helps. It helps to live more of a life of significance and of purpose. It's very hard for someone working 50+ hours a week, to really think about anything else but work and family and sleeping, right, at that point. So you're trying to have a conversation. Hey, man, figure out what your purpose in life is. Figure out what your passion is. You're like, what are you talking about, man? I'm working my butt off here. I get home, I put my kids to bed, I crash in front of the TV, and I get up so I can do it again. What are you talking about? So the job really, in my opinion, blocks our minds from really thinking about bigger things of significance.
It certainly does. It certainly does. You are telling preaching the absolute truth right there. It really does. And before you know it, those years have rolled by. And people I think that there's a mindset out there that financial freedom is not possible. And you were saying that it absolutely is. Even if you don't see it, doesn't mean that it's not possible. It certainly is a possibility.
Right.
And
it is. It's quite common, at least what I'm looking at. And but the problem is no one talks about it. It's just like it's like done in secret, And the funny thing is, the people go to the real estate meetings every single month, every month, and they're all there for one reason, which is I want to quit my job, right? But they're actually how many people actually invest in single family houses actually quit their job? There's a very, very small number of them, and the only way they do it is because they're creating scale, and they're typically creating property management companies, and they're very intentional about creating that. They're in a vast minority. The level of effort to do the same thing on the apartment side is it's not even close in comparison. So it is certainly possible, just not very likely.
No, and whenever you talk about real estate investing, you never hear anybody talking about apartments. I had never. It's not like I don't know apartments exist. Everybody knows they exist, but I've never heard it.
It's a well-kept secret that I'm trying to, make a little more public.
So how do you find, but I tell you what I will say is you don't commonly see, apartment building for sale in your local paper or whatever. Right. So where do you locate these properties?
Oh, a variety of places. I mean, for smaller ones, you can certainly go on the MLS. You'll find, duplexes, quads, all over the place. So your local residential realtor can actually help you with starting like that. They're all over the place. The larger ones are going to be listed by a different kind of broker. There's a site called loopnet.com. You can search for it. You can create a free account, and you can search for any kind of commercial real estate anywhere in the country. And you can see what's out there. And it's a great way to find brokers who are listing these kinds of things. And really, the key to finding deals is to connect with brokers, because their main business is knowing who the owners of these apartment buildings are, and they send a postcard to take them to lunch. So when the owner is ready to sell, they'll be inclined to call them. So having a good relationship with these brokers, that is the first step.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of sense. And I actually just realized I'm running late for my break, so I'm going to take a 2-minute break real quick. You're listening to, it's supposed to be a 5-minute break. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. My guest this hour is Michael Blank. He's a real estate expert, author, and entrepreneur. He's telling us all about how to get to financial freedom with real estate investing. And we're talking about apartment investing, which is really very interesting. So I hope you'll join me on the other side of this break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Making a living can be tough these days with so many jobs going overseas. If you love numbers and puzzles and want job security, you can become a tax specialist. With an amazing 6-month tax course from Tax Mama, operate your own tax practice locally or anywhere in the world where there are American taxpayers. It's a great way to write off your trips to visit family for months at a time. Everything you need to pass the IRS 3 special enrollment examinations is included in this course. Visit irsexams.school. And if you need more than 6 months, that's okay. Take your time. You're in the course until you pass the exams or until you unsubscribe and reject Tax Mama's emails.
Right now, you can get the credit you deserve. Just visit MrCreditRepair.biz. Let their expert credit repair specialist remove late payments, charge-offs, collections, even old bankruptcies fast and easy. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Why go anyplace else? Increase your credit score today. At Mr. Credit, you always get a quality service, all at our everyday discounted price. Stop getting turned down for cars, credit cards, or even new homes. Visit MrCreditRepair.biz today. That's MrCreditRepair.biz. Your credit repair is our #1 priority.
And we're back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. And if nothing else, even if I blow past my regular break, I got to take care of my sponsors, MrCreditRepair.biz, and the Tax Mama, the one and only Eva Rosenberg. She's just fantastic. And let's also not forget about Biz Social. Biz Social, John Campbell. Got to check out Send Out Cards. They are fantastic as well. And I thank them so much for supporting the show. Let's continue our conversation with Michael Blank, who's talking to us about how to invest in apartments. And you were saying that you can find listings of apartments on the MLS listing, which is basically like the regular real estate listing that you can find locally.
That's right. Yeah, if you're looking for smaller stuff, so duplexes or quads, and then the larger ones, you can start by finding brokers on LoopNet.com.
And LukeNet.com is the name of that website. Now, you do trainings and things like that. You have a couple of books, right? Or just the one book?
I have the one for now. People say you put out one and there must be a second one coming. I'm thinking I'm good for now. So I have the one.
Because writing a book is so super easy. No.
Oh my goodness, it was quite something.
Well, yeah, I mentioned the tax mama earlier during the opening of the show in her book, Trump Tax Cut, and that book was supposed to be out a while ago, and which she went through like quite an ordeal to get that book finally published. So, and that's like her, I don't know, 4th, 5th book. So I talked to quite a few authors. So I hear you. What's the name of your book?
It's called Financial Freedom with Real Estate Investing.
Excellent.
It's a bright yellow cover. It's on Amazon, and it's a really great blueprint to kind of what we're talking about here. It goes to quite a bit of depth about how to raise money, how to overcome objections, and build experience, and actually the mechanics of doing your first deal. So it really helps you visualize the whole thing. I found that when someone can visualize the process and removes a lot of the mystery, they start to believe. They go, man, this is not so complicated. I see what he's doing. Now maybe the details are missing a little bit, and I have to maybe get a little more education. But man, I think I can do this. And so that's really the motivation behind the book, is to show someone how other people, how I essentially can work whenever I want, when I want.
And you don't need to have a master's degree. You don't need to have a real estate license. You don't need to
unfortunately, you do.
You have to have a master's.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I have a master's degree. Melanie, I'm highly educated, but I threw. No, you don't. I'm just kidding. You don't need a master's degree.
I
have a master's degree, and it was really difficult for me to throw it all away because I have a master's degree in computer science, and in 2005, I literally threw it all away. I'm like, okay, that was really hard for me. But no, you do not need the master's degree.
I was about to. Well, listen, I'm an academic, but not just because I'm a nerd. Now, here's what I do. I do not have a computer science degree, but I'm a computer science professor. Figure that one out.
There you go. Well, I'm a fellow nerd then. That's right.
Yes. All that stuff means nothing, and I say that to my listeners all the time. I'm like, and I'm in my 3rd year of my doctorate. I've been in my 3rd year for like 2 years. But I tell my listeners all the time, means nothing. Some of the dumbest people I've ever met have doctor. That's true.
So true.
Listen, lest I think I was telling my class a story about how I ruined my $1,500 MacBook by kicking over a cup of coffee. And I'm a computer science professor. I said, so lest I think too much of myself, I just think of something really dumb that I've done, and that's just the most recent of a long string of dumb things. So all of those degrees mean don't get it twisted. It doesn't mean you're special. It's just, but so you don't need all that educate. My point in all of that was, and revealing way too much, was that you don't need all of that in order to become a kick butt real estate investor, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think there's something to be said for the analysis paralysis stuff, and that will hold anyone back for anything in life. And yes, I advocate getting education. It's very, very important. But there are people who will jump from seminar to seminar, and they use it as an excuse not to take action, and that's a problem. You have to educate yourself, but at one point you simply got to do it. And while you should educate yourself to avoid kind of making the big mistakes to accelerate the timeline, there are people who defer taking action, and that's the problem with anything in life, no matter what you want to do. And I see it a lot. And if people think they're moving forward, but really what they're doing is they're deferring. They're paralyzed with fear.
Okay, so now I want you to encourage my audience, right? And so this is going to be the big push that they can actually do. What's the biggest, most fabulous deal, of course, without revealing too many details, the most fabulous deal that you've ever done that was like a complete and total surprise, and you were like, wow, I can't believe I did this. Like you even surprised yourself.
Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. I will talk about it, but I will I will tell you. You learn a lot more from deals that don't go so well. You build character, you learn things. But the answer to your question,
that was coming. Don't worry.
That happens all the time. I can tell you, my first deal started off being a complete disaster and ended up okay. You know, the most recent thing, we bought a 321 unit in Memphis. That's a big deal. You know, we bought it for essentially $8 million, including renovations, and we're refinancing at a valuation of $14 million. So we built $7 million in 12 months.
Yes.
And that's crazy.
That's nuts.
It's an example. It's an example of what's possible. The problem with that example is it's kind of a big thing, but it works on a smaller level as well. We had what's his name? Jay Boyle. Jay Boyle was a UPS truck driver. Yeah, he makes like $4,000 a month before taxes, and he buys a quad using a hard money lender. It was vacant, okay? So he gets a hard money, a 6-month hard money loan, you know, like the house flipping days. And he gets this quad, and he renovates it with the hard money, and he fills it up, and then he refinances out at a valuation that was about 50% higher. He pulls the money out, and he does it again, right? So and then, of course, he in the second time around, it's a 10 unit. It's not a 4 unit, it's a 10 unit. And so now he's in the game. So he's constantly looking for value-add deals, and he's constantly creating value, and that's what we're doing on a much larger level, but you can do it on a much smaller level, and that's really exciting.
That is very exciting. Now you have me hyped, and I'm sure you have my listeners hyped as well. So listen, your website and your branding, beautiful, by the way, love that.
Thank you.
I'm a big branding chick. I'm always working on it, trying to make it better, and yours is just gorgeous. Website has podcasts, trainings, there's a free ebook there. There's all kinds of just fantastic stuff, and it's very streamlined. Where can people reach out to you if they want to contact you for any of all that good stuff I just mentioned?
Yeah, thank you for that. You know, it's the website is themichaelblank.com. That's THE, so the Michael Blank, BLANK.com. And we have a lot of free resources out there. We have tons of blog articles. I have a podcast. I have a YouTube channel. I have a book. It's $10, so it's close to free. And I think all that information is really good to help someone decide, hey, is this thing for me? That's really why it's there, and it gives you a lot of great insights. And then we also have, you know, some paid programs. We have online training courses. We have live events. We have mentoring as well. We have a partnering program you mentioned earlier on where people can bring us deals and we raise money for those deals. And it's a great way for us to find new deals. And we joint venture with people. We also joint venture with people who help us raise money. So I guess I would say something for everyone.
There is something for everyone on his website. You know what? I'm going to do I can't believe I didn't do what I normally do. I'm going to post a link in the Facey chat. And when I post for those of you out there in SHR Media Land or who are listening to this via a iPod, really, Melanie? An iTunes download. I'm a computer science professor. For those of you who are listening to this via an iTunes download or any of the other podcast platforms, I'm going to place a link to his website also within that medium, that electronic medium. So when you go on your computer, you'll be able to grab that and get to his website and all of his resources, because they are absolutely fantastic. You definitely want to check them out. If I get some time, I'm going to check it out. One of my little side ventures. Because it's really a fantastic idea, and I live in a shore area, so that's something I want to look at for sure. Which is, you know, it's great in the summertime, but right now not so much. Just saying. Where can we follow you on social media anywhere?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. The Michael Blanc is my handle on Instagram. Love to connect with you guys there. And just search for Michael Blanc on Facebook, and you'll find me, or just apartment building investing. And I should be all over page 1 of Google. So there's no way you can't find me.
I saw you when I said when I did a search for your name. And because I'm a computer science professor, I knew what that meant. So when you first came up, I said, "Oh, okay, Michael. I see you on page 1." Well, very good job today. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and I hope you'll come back.
Well, this has been so much fun, Melanie. I'm really had so much fun, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
You did a fantastic job. I appreciate it. You are listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette. We're going to take a commercial break. And on the other side of the break, I will have Ms. Melanie Johnson. Yes, I suppose there's room for 2 Melanies on Money Talk with Melanie today. She is a best-selling author, TED Talk speaker, and the CEO of Elite Online Publishing. So looking forward to talking with her. Hang tight. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Conservative media runs. Listening to SHR Media Network.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are you joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics,
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
and all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events? All kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes the show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Hey girls, Carry Girl Gear is here. More and more women every day are concealed carrying, participating in competitive shooting, and getting firearms training. It's not a boys' club anymore, and we don't have to shop in their stores anymore either. Finally, a cool and unique clothing line just for women. Dope tees and hats for the patriotic concealed carry and 2A girl. So what are you waiting for? Go check out carrygirlgear.com today.
It's your business over here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with the big movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
On the SHR Media Network, Sackheads Against Tyranny on shrmedia.com. Go there quick like a bunny, 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com. Be there.
Welcome back. You're listening to Money Talk with Melanie. I'm your business diva, Melanie Collette, and this is the second hour of Money Talk with Melanie. And I am happy to welcome to the Facebook thread Robert Houston, one of my sponsors, Mr. CreditRepair.biz himself. And Josh, how are you, darling? I hope you are well. And everybody else in the Facey chat that I missed earlier today. Daniel, how are you? I don't know if I said hi to my man Doug, but how are you? And thank you for being so active. Jara and Sean and Dee Dee Prince, hello. How are you all in the Facey thread? Hour 2, our guest today is Melanie Johnson. She is a 10-time #1 best-selling author, a TED Talk speaker, which, as you guys know who listen to the show regularly, I'm a huge TED Talk nerd. So very excited about that. She's also the CEO of Elite Online Publishing, and she's going to talk to us today about how to tell your story and become a bestseller or a best-selling author, if you will. Before I bring her on, I do want to tell you a bit about her. I already told you that she's a best-selling author. She's also a speaker, coach, and consultant. She was honored to be a TED Talk speaker in Sugar Land, Texas in 2016, where she spoke about the importance of leaving a legacy. That's very exciting. Have to check that out. The title of the TED Talk is Leaving a Legacy. The Time is Now. She has owned and operated 2 independent TV stations in Houston and Dallas. She's been in front of and behind the camera. She started her career as a news anchor in Detroit at Channel 20 after she won the title of Miss Michigan and was the first runner-up to Miss America. She's currently the owner of Elite Online Publishing and Charity Auction Consignments. She's passionate about sharing people's stories that educate, motivate, and inspire. She's an expert at publishing, marketing, and positioning nonfiction books for business owners and professionals. She creates expert authority status for marketing impact and influence, and is honored to work one-on-one with her authors to create the best strategies for book creation, marketing, and social media. And she also hosts in her spare time two podcasts on iTunes and Stitcher Radios. One is called Hot Chicks Write Hot Books. I love it. It's called Hot Chicks Write Hot Books. I love it. That's fantastic. So without further ado, Melanie Johnson, how are you?
Hi, Melanie, and it's so wonderful to meet another Melanie. There's not that many of us out there. So
I know.
love it. And congratulations on your show. It looks fabulous. I've been listening to the first part and learned a lot about real estate.
Oh, thank you so much for listening. And congratulations on your parents doing so well with your name as well.
Yeah. I was actually named after my grandmother. So, it came from a long line. Where did you get your name from? Were you named after someone?
A singer, apparently. It was the 70s. It was 1970.
Oh, yeah, there was her.
Yep. The singer named Melanie. And then my middle name is after my grandmother.
Oh, that's why my middle name is after my mother. So there you go.
So there you go. But what's fabulous about our names is like when someone says Melanie, 12 people don't turn around. Like it's typically us. It's typically
right.
one person.
Right.
Exactly. Somebody, Robert Houston in the Facebook stream said it's the Melanie and Melanie show.
Yeah. I love it. We're going to start a new one. The Melanie and Melanie show.
It is. And I don't believe in accidents. I don't believe that in coincidences. I've been thinking about writing a book for a very long time. And to be honest, every time I tell a story in ways that only I can, especially if I'm angry, people are like, when are you?
I won't touch that.
Yeah, don't touch. Put it this way: you won't catch that audio on Money Talk with Melanie. But they're like, when are you going to write a book? And I don't believe in accidents. So I've been working on the outline on my book, and then here you come via a mutual friend. So selfishly, not only am I looking forward to talking to you for the sake of my audience who are budding authors, but also for the host as well.
Well, your case, then you're really at the perfect time, because I love when an author comes to us when their book is in the process, because there are things and strategies that from our vantage point as a publisher. Not all publishers do this, but we're very strategic. So, okay, so you're going to be writing your book, and there's some certain things that you need to have in there, and you'll think, oh my gosh, I just never would have thought about that. So let's start with the beginning of the book. You know how you go onto Amazon and you look at a book, and you see those first few pages, it lets you get a little glimpse of what the book is about.
Sure.
So one of our strategies is, in those first pages, we want to make sure all your contact information is there, all your LinkedIn, your Facebook, all your social media contacts are there. And then if you're going to have, let's say you have a digital product or something like that, you want to have that information there as well. And hey, if you'd like to see, if you like this book and you want more information or to dig deeper, check out my digital product or this, that, or offer a bonus. So even if someone tends maybe not to buy your book, they're going to see that in the first few pages, and they may go check you out on all those places. You're going to gain followers. You're going to get emails. You're going to get all kinds of things because it's in the beginning of the book. Some people don't even put that in their book anywhere. So that's number one. Make sure that's in the beginning of your book.
Okay, wait. I have to stop you. Wait, but can I just say something? That's genius.
Sure.
That's genius, because as someone who looks up a lot of books, I find that so frustrating when you can't find any of that. Like, I'm always looking for that information, and you rarely ever find it. You're so right. I hate to interrupt you because you were on a roll, but I just had that. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, get your notebook out, girl, because I'm going to give you lots and lots of good information.
Oh, I'm going to be replaying this.
If you were one of my clients right now, and I was walking you through, this is what I would be doing with you.
I love it. Okay, 2. I'm listening.
Okay. So the next thing, when you're writing a book, you should have a foreword and an introduction, but they should be by somebody else. They should be by someone who is in your field or someone who is celebrity status. And when I mean in your field, like, it should be someone who is at the top of your field. Go to whoever you can that you know, or know someone that you know that will give you more status, right? So let's say you're a politician, then you want to go to become a congressman or the mayor. Well, then you should be going to the governor and see if you can get him to do the foreword to your book. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or an influencer, someone who has people that are already following him, because then you're going to use their name in your description for your book, right? So when people are searching for that person, your book is still going to come up. Right? So you're going to leverage those people, their influence, and their platform by having them write your foreword and them writing your introduction. It should be 2 different people now, one that writes the introduction and one that writes the foreword. So that's the next thing. Oh, goodness. So then the third thing, when you're writing your book, so many people don't think about taking someone deeper, taking someone to the next level. Right? So what I want you to do, like, so you've got this fabulous show, I'm sure they're recorded, other people have podcasts, you have YouTube videos, different things like that. So you may be talking about a subject in your book, and you'll say, listen, if you want more, I have even more information on this topic. Click here, go to my YouTube video, or go to my digital product, or go to my podcast, and I do a complete interview with somebody that goes even deeper on this. So you're taking them to different places, or you're taking them to your website. Hey, you know what? I did a blog post, and here it is on my website. Click here. So then you're engaging them on multiple levels. So every chapter should have a purpose, and you're taking them to different places outside of the book to connect with you. And hopefully it's maybe even a landing page that you can get their email address, name, email address, and phone number and information.
All right.
So then you're growing your list while you do it.
Yes. Okay. Now I want to take a pause. The teacher in me wants to take a pause for my listeners so we can backtrack just a little bit, because I want you to explain what a landing page is so that you can collect the information. Just a brief explanation of what that is.
Sure. And you know what, people, if you don't know the term landing page, I'm sure you've seen one. You know, it kind of comes up as a pop-up. It's like, hey, if you want my newsletter, you want this bonus, put your name and your email here. So you would need your web designer, if you're not web savvy, to create that. So they would click on the link. The landing page would open up, which is really like, call it like a web page, so to speak. And it would say, put your information in here, and then it would take them to wherever you want to take them from there.
Right, exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely. I just wanted to, I'm web savvy and tech savvy, but not everybody is. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood what you were talking about when you said make sure they go to that get hooked up to a landing page, make sure there's one there, which is an excellent
great question.
Yep, excellent idea. And I'm a teacher, I'm a professional questioner. Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to make sure that my audience understood that. Okay, keep going.
So when you're writing the content of the book, that's the most important thing. And now you're just starting to write the content to your book. People sometimes forget to make sure they have story in there. So one of our recommendations in the content is to start out each chapter with a transformational story, something that people can engage with and connect with, and draws them into the chapter. So I always equate it to kind of like a minister. So when you go to church, you know how the minister gives you what the scripture is, and then from the scripture, he gives you a story. It may be about his own life. It may be about someone he knows. It might have been about somebody famous. It may be about someone he read about or someone from history, and how that ties it into the scripture. Right? So you've got that story. So you've got your point. You've got your story that ties it in. And then at the end, the minister will say, now, how does that relate to you? What does that mean to you? Here's the scripture. Here's the stories that I told you about that scripture. And now this is what that really means to your life. So that really think about that formula when you're writing your book. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Here I thought Pastor Rudy was just brilliant. It's my pastor. I'm kidding. I'm totally joking. No. And he was using a formula. Look at that.
Yes.
They probably taught him that in seminary, I'm sure. But
right. And then here's another one, to make it simple, we call it the 10 by 10 by 3. So if you're starting from scratch, you've got a lot of content already. So here's a formula we call the 10 by 10 by 3. So the first 10 is, think of the most frequently asked questions you get asked all the time about your business, your expertise, about your topic. So, people are always asking you the same thing over and over again. They may be asking you about your Facebook Live. Hey, how did you do that? How did you start that? What are the topics? How do you get your guests on there? So write down those questions. It can be more than 10, but if you dated them, if you spend, honestly, literally then 2 minutes, you'll have more than 10 of those questions. So then think of the questions that they should be asking. We call them the should ask questions. It's like, well, if you knew what I knew, this is really what you should be asking me. Just like you had the gentleman on about real estate. He had the inside scoop, right? He's like, it's not just about the real estate license. Listen, this is what since I walked through this path already, this is what you need to know.
Right.
So think of the should ask questions as well as the frequently asked questions. And then what we say, the 3 is, if you can come up with 3 stories that illustrate each of the answers to those questions, that starts the chapters of your book.
Okay, can I just stop and say something right now?
Please.
You're amazing. But go ahead.
Well, you're amazing. Well, I'm helping you. I hope I'm helping everybody else that is thinking about writing a book.
You are, this is huge. And listen, and I don't know if I'm the only one. Anybody who's listening to this podcast who's thinking about writing a book, but part of my issue is organization and process. And I have a friend who's been working with me about process. And I've been a lot more productive since I've been applying what he's taught me about process. But part of my issue has been process with writing this book, because I don't know what I'm doing. So
well, let me tell you the solution for a lot of our authors. We offer what we call a VIP day. So either they fly us to them or they fly to us. We start the process usually the night before with dinner, and then I spend the whole day, either myself or my partner Jen Foster, we spend the whole day together, and we craft the book chapter by chapter using some of the strategies that we're talking about. and we have the stories that we put in there. Every chapter is now crafted. There's a purpose to the book, and we want to make sure we have the theme, because the book, especially for nonfiction business owners, is to promote your business and help you leverage the book to get more clients and get more money at the end of the day.
Right.
So that's always, and we keep that through there and keep that in mind. Then we bring in the ghostwriter for part of the day, and then we talk the book out. So many of us, I mean, myself, totally myself, when I sit at that computer, I'm like, I'm frozen, or I rewrite the same sentence 10 times because I'm not sure if I have it written exactly the way I want it, and it makes me crazy. But girl, if you want me to talk about what I need to do, oh, just, give me a glass of wine and I'm ready to go. I'll talk to you all day. So, I mean, and like if you're at a dinner party and somebody asks you, you could just go on about the whole thing. So we talk the book, we record the book. The ghostwriter is there for part of that whole session. He's listening, and we have it all transcribed. Then he starts to work to put it all together. It comes back to you, and then you're doing an editing process for it, which is way easier than starting from scratch, right? You've got an editor ghostwriter working with you. So, and then the book gets done. So all you're doing is really investing a day and a half with us, and all that brain surgery and pain is gone. And a lot of it is really, it's still in your head, right? Like you're telling me, this is still in my head and I got to get it out. And instead of like, okay, spend a day with us, and then you get to move on to other things and you don't have to think about it anymore, which frees your brain space up to be more productive and more successful doing other things.
So okay, I'm laughing for a couple of reasons. One, I'm listening to you, right? And I can see myself on the Facebook Live. Those of you who are in SHR Media Land who are listening to this on audio, and I'm listening to you and my mouth is open because you're literally just like solving all of my book problems here, right? And then you stop talking and my brain's like, Melanie, you're on the radio, time to talk. So I'm like, you have to stop thinking and talk now because you have dead air, so that's no good. Now I have a question. This Melanie, the host Melanie, it's time to talk because the guest Melanie stopped talking, so now you talk. That's how the radio show thing works. John Campbell in the Facebook chat, who's actually one of my sponsors, wants to know, how many pages or chapters should a book about your business be? Excellent question. Thoughts?
Great question. So minimum should be 135 pages. And the reason for that is because then there's room to put your title on the spine. And it has that thud factor, right? Now you might be going, oh man, I don't know if I can do 135 pages. Well, there's a couple solutions to that. So first of all, it's not 135 pages on a Word document, because your book format is either going to be a 6x9 or it can be a 5x8, which even creates more pages. The other solution, especially for a business owner, a lot of times you're going to have some visual things. You may have graphs in there, charts in there. You may have a page with a quote on there. You may have some pictures. So there's a lot of ways to get to that magic number, along with the forward and, the introduction and all of those things that you can get there. So, but on the other end of the spectrum, we don't want you to do a book that's 350 pages. Really, that's just too much. So we say the pocket is between that 135 and 250. And ultimately, a 200-page book is a great book. But anywhere in that range is perfect.
That's a now part of me, as the academic part of me, that's listening to all the different ways you can get to 135, is thinking, yeah, this is what I used to call, when I taught an education studies class, that's what I used to refer to as fluff. That's what I used to tell my education studies students, don't give me a whole lot of fluff because I'm not going to be happy if you do that. I want some substance. And you know what else the kids do? If they have a word, and you can't do this with your book, they are so slick. They put words in so that they get to the word count, and then they change the font to the color white so that the teacher doesn't know that the words are not actually there. They're so shady.
Wow.
I had to tell.
Pretty tricky.
I had to tell that story because it's just so funny. But as you were saying, like,
well, you don't want too much fluff for sure. I mean, the whole thing is to give value in your book.
Sure.
But some people are kind of visual, right? They want to see what you're talking about and have it visual.
That's true. No, that makes a whole lot of sense. And I loved what you said about the size, that you can play with the size. That, like, that's genius. Well, in thinking about I do a lot of things, right? Like, my song is Money Talk with Melanie, but actually what my book is going to be about is education, because I've been in education in various capacities for 20 years or so. And there's so many different topics that I want to talk about. I'm like, I'm not sure this is one book. This might actually be a series of books. Now, there is a financial public policy piece, because I'm also very politically active. But I think that's a book in a series. It is what popped into my head one day. I think there's a funny book with student quotes and maybe some of my own, because one year, one of my students was keeping a record. She was keeping a page in the back of her notebook of Miss Collette quotes, and she read them all at the end of the year. I had no idea hilarious. I was quite that funny, but apparently I'm hilarious. So
and that's a good thing.
Yeah, she read them at the end of the year, and I was like, "You were doing what?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I wrote down like all of your funny quotes. I wrote them down. Want to hear them?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And it was actually hysterical. I had no idea she was doing that. It was very funny. Yeah. So that's, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who has that issue where, maybe you do have command of, oh, the boss man's in the Facebook thread, Sackhead Sean, one of the owners of SHR Media. And BZ, a host in his own right, is also in the Facebook chat. I had to mention that. BZ says, "Oh my God, Melanie, the stories about education you could tell." Yes, and I tell many. If you look up the hashtag The Angry Educator, you will find quite a few videos on my Facebook page about me telling some stories. Now, the ones that are really funny are the ones that I tell on my way home from work to my bestie. That would probably need a bleep button when I'm mad. And she, the last time I did it, she said, "Oh my God, please tell me you have a dash cam and you're recording this. Please tell me you're recording this," because she's laughing her head off. Because
oh, that's too funny.
She's like, "Please," she's like, "Why are you recording this? This is what," I'm like, "It's not funny." But
well, you brought up something about, people have multiple books in their head and they're trying to decide which one should I do first.
Right.
Which is a valid question. It's like, well, should I do this one? Should I do that one? I mean, I love this one maybe more. So the way to really figure that out is decide where your business is. We always say, pick the one that is going to brand you for what you want to be doing right now. So like for you, Melanie, if you want to be talking about education and have your platform be education, to do speaking gigs on education, to do digital products about education, being an education consultant, if you want to expand that career and that's where you want your focus to be, then that's the book you need to do first. If you're wanting to use the platform of Money Talk and that's the direction that your career is going in and you want to establish yourself at that, then the book should be on Money Talk. So pick where you're at. And then sometimes I've directed people, it's like, hey, the one that you're picking, there's no money there. Like you're picking a business and a topic that there's just not a lot of revenue there. And I steer them away from that where there's more revenue in a different direction. So, it's kind of a conversation. It's not just, I think you have to ask yourself those questions of where you want to go, what do you see yourself doing for the next year? What are your goals for the outcome? Because your book becomes your business. It's like a business card. So what do you want your business card to say? Are you going to be a realtor? Are you going to be a spokesperson? Are you going to be a motivator? I mean, what is that business card going to say? And your book needs to match that. We always tell speakers, your speech is your book and your book is your speech. They've got to go together. So just keep that in mind.
That makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. So now, are there situations where I would always think like it's writing a book and picking that subject is kind of also a free market issue too, right? Like, should I be concerned, or any writer for that matter, about areas where there might be holes in information that I could provide? Should that be a consideration at all, or no? You know what I mean? Like stuff that people don't know that they might want to know, kind of thing.
Well, there's research you can do. Like we tell people, you can even do some of your own research before you hire someone like us. I mean, we do research for our authors. But so we were looking at, what is it called? It's called the mommy lift. Okay, now I've never heard of a mommy lift. I didn't know what a mommy lift was. Have you? I don't know.
Nope.
So a mommy lift is like a mom who comes in and wants the boob job, the tummy tuck, she wants that kind of makeover after she's been a mom and done giving birth to all her kids. So we were pitching a plastic surgeon. And so when we did research, we're like, oh my gosh, there's like no books on mommy lifts. There's nothing. So we were like, you could just crush that market if you want to get in there. Now, that being said, on the other part, we had a conversation with a guy today. He does kind of self-help, motivation, like achieving your goals type of thing. But we talked about that everybody's voice is different. Everybody connects to someone different and the way that they present things. And to stick to your voice, what makes you different about that topic and how you're presenting it. And I kind of go back to the minister again. Like, let's use the Baptist church. You may have 20 Baptist churches. I mean, I'm in Houston. It's a huge city. There could be 20 Baptist churches not too far from me. Well, they're all teaching out of the same book, but I may resonate with one more than the other. They speak to me. Their stories speak to me. They relate to me. So, your voice is going to be a little different. Your stories are going to be different that are going to attract somebody to you. So don't be afraid if the market is full. You just have to have your own individual take on it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you, when it comes to writing a book, you are part of the product. What your personality brings is part of the product. That's what I hear you say.
Yeah, your personality, your experiences, right? Your experience is different than mine about money. My background's different than yours. We may talk about a similar topic. We may talk about mortgages, and my experience and what I've read and been exposed to could be totally different than yours, and you may have a better viewpoint on it than I do, or different viewpoint that attracts a different crowd than my crowd would be that I know, right?
Right.
So it's all about that. And even political candidates. Look at, you got a variety of Republicans and Democrats running for the same office, but people tend to like one over the other. Everybody has a different opinion about them, right? They're all talking about the same thing, fixing our government, making our lives better, but somehow someone sounds better to us than the other person.
Oh, that's very true. I mean, I say often, I'm very active politically, that like I feel like everyone wants basically the same thing, but what we disagree on is what that thing means, first of all, and then how
it's a different definition.
Right, and then how we get it. Like equality is a big one, right? Like everybody wants it. If you ask everybody, like, do you want equality? Well, yeah, of course I want equality. But then if you ask them what equality means, well, that's now a whole different story. So,
yeah, and it's all based maybe on their experience, where they came from, their culture, their lifestyle, their parents. It really has, and their education. I mean, and education kind of meaning experience, their life experience, right?
Sure.
So, and it's the same thing. So if you're talking about like your thing, Money Talk, I mean, I remember reading, this was several years ago. I'm like, you know what? I really need to focus on my finances. And I read Tony Robbins' book, Susie Orman's book. There was another guy's book that I read, and they were all different. And some of them I totally disagreed with sections of it. I'm like, I would never do that. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. And in each book I had things that I radically agreed with and radically disagreed with. So I took the things that I liked out of them and I thought would work for me to make sense. But I wanted to see everybody's opinion on that topic. So I think there's room for everybody in the marketplace. Just think about it. I mean, Amazon alone sells 83% of all books sold. Wow. And they sell over 1 million ebooks every day.
That's staggering. So, that's a staggering That's a staggering number. That's insane. A
So
million?
to me, there's room for everybody. And it's not, and this is the other thing I tell people, especially for nonfiction books. Our job is, at Elite Online Publishing, to make you a #1 bestseller, propel your book up to the top, give it a lot of momentum, then you earn that title. It's like, I competed for Miss Michigan. Once I was Miss Michigan, I'll always have that. You can never, but if I was second runner-up, big deal. No one remembers second runner-up, but they know Miss Michigan, right? So we don't want you to be, 1,250,000 on Amazon. We want you to be #1, because then you'll always have the title of #1 best-selling author, and no one can ever take that away from you. So then once the book sales have gotten there, of course, it's nice to keep it propelled up to the top, but then it's a shift in gears to make that book work for you as an asset. It's now an asset. You're going to leverage it and use it in a variety of different ways for your specific business. So, and everybody's business and goals are different. A speaker is different than somebody who has maybe an online platform, or someone who's running for office. So everybody's goals are different. So there's different ways to leverage that book. My business partner, Jen Foster, she has a book called Books to Bucks, and it has, I think there's 25 different ways to leverage your book to make money with it. So, book sales are nice. You're going to make $2 or $3 royalty every time you sell your book. But what if you get a client and your client value is $5,000 to $10,000 when you get a client? Isn't that better than having to sell, how many royalties do you have to make at $2 to make $10,000? So that's the goal of the book.
Wow. Yeah, I know that was a very insightful response to what you just said. But
yeah, because so many people get caught up in, I got to make all these book sales. I'm like, don't focus on the book sales. Focus on using your book. Or you're like, here's a perfect example. You're trying to get into this guy who runs a major company. You have a great service. You can probably save money with his for his company with your product, but you just can't get your foot in the door to the guy. So can't get past the secretary, can't get into him at all. So what you do is you send his book with a personal note, which you can do from Amazon. You send a package to him at his office. Now, his secretary is not going to be opening any Amazon package, right? I mean, Lord knows what might be in there. So you doesn't want to open that up and be surprised. That's his personal stuff. So that's
right.
going to go right on his desk. And next thing you know, he's going to be opening it up, and there is your book in his hands. You're going to have that personal note on there. Say, I hope you enjoyed this book. Check out page 42, because there's something that I think will transform your business and save you thousands of dollars. Think he's going to turn to page 42?
Sure.
And you can even take it a step further. You could put a link to a video, personal video, that you could make a private YouTube video just for him that he could click onto, that he could go to. So then you've got your foot in the door. You've got your message to him because it's in your book, and you've got it right in his hand, right in front of you, right in front of him.
Now here, I thought this was just about writing a book. Here, I thought this was just about getting the book done. Let's just get the book done so I can get it written, because I have friends who are in this situation too, where we talk about writing a book and whether or not we should write a book, and we're like, yeah, but I have like 4 books. Like I have 5 books. Like there's several books that need to be written.
So, and let me tell you this. One of our authors, he's written 25 books, and he says you're only a writer until it's finished and published, then you're an author. So right now, y'all are just writers, you're not authors. So 2019 needs to be the year to become an author.
Okay, I like it. I like it. Now, here's the other daunting task that I think people worry about. I know I worry about it. I'm sure I'm not alone. How long does it take to write a book? Does it take years? Like, is this, does it depend on what kind of book? Like, I'm sure if I'm writing a book on like metaphysics and like proving whether or not there's a God and how quantum physics is involved, that might take a bit longer than to write how to arch your eyebrows perfectly. So
let's talk about one of your books. I mean, you're an expert in your field. You're an expert in education. So you don't have to do tons of research because it's all in your head. You know what you're talking about. So, I mean, I've had people, like I say, that we've gotten the book done in 30 days. We get it all done. The majority of the content, when you do a VIP day, the majority of the content is done in a day. So then it's just getting it edited and put together and running through the rest of the phases. So, when done is done enough, some people will sit there and they will work on their book and they're just not sure. So they go back and they edit it and they change it. Done is done enough. That's what we tell people, because that book doesn't start working for you until it gets out there. So you got to stop fretting over it so much, because no one's getting to read it if you're still fretting over it. So I don't think, if you're taking a year to write your book, that's just too long. If you're writing a business book like we're talking about, you should not take a year to write your book. You just need to set the time aside and just use some of the strategies that we talked about. And you can have your book done in a couple weeks just by doing it a couple hours a day.
I think you're
but
probably...
Here's the big tip. So to transcribe your book, like we were talking about, to talk your book, so use an app called Otter, O-T-T-E-R, and that transcribes in real time. Otter,
O-T-T-R, It transcribes in real time?
Yep. So you can talk and it will type while you are talking. It's a free app. And again, so you're going to write down your top 10 questions, most frequently asked questions, write down the most should ask questions, think of the stories that go with them, and just start talking. And if it's hard for you to talk in a vacuum, like by yourself, have a girlfriend or a buddy come over and say, hey, I need you to ask me these questions, and like have a conversation with me. And then have the conversation with them about the content of your book, and it'll be transcribed. And then you can just go back and start editing. So much easier, so much faster, don't you think?
Yes. I got to the point when I was in school where my hands started to hurt from typing so much. But this was a couple of years ago, and I was using, I want to say, direct. So I had switched to voice to text, because doctoral programs, it's all writing. And so master's program the same way. And I think this happened toward the end of my master's program too. My hands started to hurt, so I was using Dragon, but I didn't find it very effective, and I got so frustrated I just went back to typing and got hand braces.
Poor hand braces.
I know, terrible.
Easier. And you can do it from your phone. There'll be times I'll be driving in the car and I'll start thinking of content that I want, and I'll just flip on that app when I'm at a stoplight, and then I just start talking while I'm driving, and it's just writing everything down for me. I even used it. My dad's 87, and we were at the doctor's office, and he was giving my dad this whole list of, verbally saying, well, you can't eat this, you can't eat that, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I go, can you hold on a second? And I put up my Otter app, and I said, okay, now let's start over. Tell us everything. And so I had it all written down. I couldn't, so I didn't have to type it, write it. It was just all right there.
Right. Is that, do you know if that's cross-platform? Can you use that on a PC and a Mac, or?
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense. That was a question from Doug in the Facebook chat, but that was a great question. I'm a Apple snob myself, so. If BZ in the chat found it, I just refer to all other technology as inferior, and I have no problem saying that out loud. And they're like, you're a computer teacher, you can't say that. I'm like, no, I really can't. Because Apple really is for the lazy and people who don't know technology. So I'm kind of.
Oh, that's funny.
It is. Because I do know technology, like I know better. But
yeah.
But who wants to send yourself through all of that? If I need to know, I know.
That's right. We should talk a little bit about the other important things like your cover and title and subtitle.
Yes. Now these.
Right, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the title first. So the title should have 3 elements to it. We want it to provoke curiosity. It needs to be interesting, and it should be memorable. So if you can remember those things, and it kind of tells, like, you kind of know what you're getting with it.
Okay, so it tells you exactly.
So curiosity, it should provoke curiosity. It should be interesting, and it should be memorable. Like the 4-hour work week, that's very makes you curious. Really, only 4 hours? I can work 4 hours? the 7 habits of highly effective people. Well, I want to be highly effective. How do I be highly effective? Right? So think about that. The subtitle, now when you get into the subtitle, this is really, you want to think about keywords need to be in that subtitle, number 1.
These are
keywords mean
go ahead.
Words that people search for, and I'm going to be specific, words that people search for on Amazon, because that's where most people are going to go to search for books, on Amazon.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the subtitle, you want it to be what explains the promise or the benefits of the book.
Okay.
Okay. The promise or the benefits of the book should be the subtitle.
Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. Yeah, I saw a book title on LinkedIn yesterday that said, "Read this book if you want to be better at ads on LinkedIn." That was literally the title. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, that tells you exactly what you want to know, right?
Right.
Probably search is like, if you're searching like, how do I get better on LinkedIn? That might be something that you search on Amazon, and then that book pops up.
Yeah, I thought it was very fun. Black cover, white print. Read this if you want to be better at getting leads on LinkedIn or something like that. But literally, that was the title of the book. I thought that was just like fantastic.
That's funny. Well, the thing they did right about that book too, we talk about for covers, is contrast. So some people, when they're making their own cover, they don't have the contrast. So contrast meaning you can't have light color on light color and dark colors on dark colors. You want to be able to really read that title. It needs to pop out from the background of the book. So it can't be where you can't read it enough. So make sure you have contrast. And, it used to be in the day that you were going to bookstores and holding the book in your hand, and that's how you were looking at the cover. But now the cover has to look really good. It's just a small, like the size of what, a quarter, less than a quarter? Because that's how you're seeing it on Amazon when you're going through all those thumbnails. So it has to look good small.
Right. Because when you see books that have a lot of artwork on it and stuff like that, it does kind of get drowned out on Amazon, and it's hard to see. That is very true. Well, this book definitely can be seen. Like I said, it's black with white writing, and it was actually the first thing I saw on the page when I went on the LinkedIn that day. Was that book? That was it, and I cracked up laughing. Was the first thing. I was like, well, I know it's going to be in that book for sure.
I'm gonna go look at it now just because I'm curious.
Right, it's good. It's great. It's on. The post was yesterday, so I'm sure it was probably a sponsored ad or something like that.
Yeah.
So once you get that done and you execute your book, right? How do you get organized to kind of get it moving and get the word out that you've written this book? And by the way, the comments in the Facebook chat, people think you're fabulous, which I completely agree.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
I just hope you're all learning something, and I can help you with, it's helping you for your future book.
Tell me that the 2019 VIP day has not happened yet.
Oh no, and they're one-on-one. So we do it one-on-one with people.
Oh.
So we schedule it as not a group. But now that you say that, maybe I should do a group. We should have a group VIP day. But the ones that we've done thus far have been one-on-one with people.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Okay, I got it. Doug. Doug said Doug in the Facebook chat said Melanie will remember her name. Yes, I will not forget her name. No, I will not forget her name. Okay, so once you do that and you want to get the word out about the book, how do you do that beyond social media? Because if you don't have a huge following, then it's going to be hard to, transfer that and get the word out to everybody that, hey, I have a book, you should buy it.
Yeah, if you're starting from scratch, then I really recommend also like working with a publisher like us that can help you with that. So part of it is we rebrand you as an author and start to work on your social media before the book launches and start to create excitement. So number one, start to create excitement before the book comes out. Join some Facebook groups that maybe are a similar topic to what your book is on that you can contribute to, and then start to maybe drip some quotes from your book and let them know that you're having a book that's coming out if you don't have anybody following you right now. The big key is, like people ask me, well, what's the secret? You know, how do you make them number one? You've made everybody number one. What's the secret? Well, part of the secret is what we're really good at is we're very strategic at picking the right category, picking the right keywords for your description and keywords in your subtitle. And we're very strategic about looking up all the different background information of when we should launch your book, what the competition is, where we should place your book. So that's kind of on the back end of it. On the other end of it, so we run a promotion period. So we run a promotion for 24 to 48 hours where we, sorry, my son was calling in the middle of it. So we run it for 99 cents. So the ebook, we only launched the ebook to begin with, and we launched it at 99 cents for the ebook during that time. And then we want to propel it during that time to become a #1 bestseller. And there's a bunch of other strategies that we have within there. Like we want our author to create a launch team. There's a lot of different things that we do to push all that to get as many categories as possible. And then we really love it if we can get you to be an international bestseller. And that happens. That one doesn't happen all the time. But if the environment's right and the person that we're working with maybe has some platforms overseas, then we can propel them to be an international bestseller. Our last 2 authors both hit international.
Wow. That's fantastic. When they go international, does that require that the book be published in other languages or, you know?
So the international is really for Canada, the UK, South America, and Australia.
Okay.
So there's different links. There's separate Amazon links for those because they have a different Amazon than they do in the United States. So then those countries will buy through that link. And then we can see the metrics of how many people bought and if it goes to #1, like say in the UK.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, I want to go back just a little bit to the social media thing and ask you about Facebook groups. There are a lot of people who post in Facebook groups, and I used to do it, and I'm kind of lazy about it. Do you find that to be benefit? Do you find Facebook groups to be beneficial? I take it because you mentioned that as part of your launch and part of, I guess, your setup and preparing to launch your book. But I would imagine that you should be judicious about which Facebook groups you participate in and which ones you don't.
Absolutely. Be very particular and strategic to the ones that you want to belong to and that you're active in. And I'll give you, this is like a great example. So Wes Oslesky, I never say his last name right, but his book is Invisible Evil. It's a novel that we just launched recently. So this is a great strategy. His book is an he's in the aero space. He writes mostly nonfiction, but he wrote this fiction book about he's really big into airplanes. He was an airplane pilot. So aeronautical is his big niche. So he was on a Facebook aeronautical group that he started to post in, and they said, hey, you know, you can't sell your stuff here. Like, you're not allowed to sell things there. So he's like, no problem. So he wrote an interesting blog post about 3 short paragraphs long, and then he had at the top that the blog was sponsored by his book, Invisible Evil, which was hyperlinked to his Amazon page. And he saw a spike in sales. So from the blog with the hyperlink, so he wasn't selling his book, he was adding value, but he had that hyperlink in there. People were curious. They clicked over, and we could see the metrics where people bought his books that day.
That makes a ton of sense. That makes a ton of sense. I know some people say just go by the number of people that are in the group, or just go by. But I feel like there's so many different Facebook groups. You have to be super careful, and that's why I asked that question. And oh gosh, if you're active on social media and say, I don't know, have a podcast, you get invited to a lot of pages. It's almost impossible to participate. And then the other part of that is I also kind of feel other people clearly don't have this problem because I see other people post. But I almost feel like there's a lot of people that belong to the same group, so you're like bombarding them with your stuff. But maybe that's something I should not be worried about.
No, I mean, if you look at people like, I love using Grant Cardone as an example. I mean, he's just everywhere.
Yes,
he is. Hammered with information. He doesn't care if you're sick of him. Like, be sick of me. I want you to have so much of me that you're drowning in me. So I don't think that's really the case. I think people have to have those impressions. As long as you're providing value, I think is the biggest thing. Provide value. Don't just be out there talking about yourself and what you do and promoting yourself. Give value. Like, I think it's tremendous. This Facebook Live that you have, the other guests that you had on provided a lot of value for people. I feel like I'm providing a lot of value for people for content. Like, they have enough rope that I gave them that they can go be dangerous and maybe have a book done by, right?
Oh, you have done worlds of good for at least one author. I can tell you. One, well, I'm not an author. I'm just a writer. Soon to be author in 2019.
Good. This is the year.
This is definitely the year, for sure.
Yeah. And so then I want to be clear too, because I mean, we don't just do the VIP day, we do all of the publishing. So, and I tell people it's kind of like building a house. I mean, some people are very tech savvy and they can upload their book and they can do all that stuff, but sometimes they don't know the full distribution, and then Amazon comes back and says, hey, you didn't do A, B, C, and D right. You got to fix this stuff. And I remember when I was first doing publishing, I'm like, but I don't know what that is. I don't know how to fix that. And you're pulling your hair out. And so I feel like if you're constructing a house, you want to learn to be the electrician and the tile layer and the plasterer, and I don't. So I want to hire a general contractor. So that's what we really are in the publishing business. We're the general contractor. Our authors get to keep 100% of their royalties. They own 100% of their book. The checks and go right into their bank account directly from Amazon, and they have complete control over their content. So we just make it easy for them so they can go on and do what they do to make money, and we take care of the book.
Wow. And that makes a whole lot of sense. And it's very similar to what the guest in the last hour, Michael Blanc, said about having a team to do things for you. We were talking about having a property manager. It is the same principle. Taking on any of these tasks, it can be super tedious, which is why people don't do it. And then they
it stops them. It stops them from moving forward. You know, we have an author that we launched in December. Her name is Lauren Golden. Just love her. She's got a platform called Free Mama. And she came to us in October, mid-October. And she said, my book is done. It just needs to have a good editing. When do you think you can have it out? And we got her book out before Christmas. We launched her book. So it was launched. It was edited. So what we love to do too is work with authors while they're in the process of their book, because then we can start to do all the other stuff, create the cover, get the ISBN number, start the social media, do all that stuff while the book is being finished or being edited. So when you say how long does it take, so if someone has their book done and it just needs the final edit, in less than 60 days, her book was the #1 bestseller. So that can happen.
That's insane. That's insane. Yeah. Let me ask you, can I ask you a question about TED Talks real quick in relation to this?
Sure.
Okay, because I'm a huge, and my audience knows this. And by the way, people in the Facebook chat are like, what a fantastic guest. So I guess I should give a shout out to our mutual friend, Josh, for connecting us.
Yes.
He's okay, I guess.
Josh is a rock star. Oh yeah. My God.
Yeah, he is. Thank you, Josh, for hooking us up. I appreciate it. But so I love TED Talk. Like, you know, most people go on long trips and they listen to music. I like binge TED Talks. So would you say that there's an advantage to having something like a TED Talk under your belt? Is that something that's easy or hard to do? Is part of kind of like the package? Is that something you recommend, or is that just no relation to writing a book whatsoever?
I think if your goal is to have a TED Talk, it's helpful to have a book.
Okay.
I would say that it's helpful. I don't know that it's a necessity, but it's definitely helpful. Just like when you want to have media interviews, you know, one of our authors, Mika Mossbacher, she's a commentator, BBC, PBS. I think she does some Fox stuff too. And in her world, she has to have a book. I mean, if you're going to be the expert on national media, you got to have a book, and not just a book. You got to have the hardback, the audiobook, the paperback, and the ebook. You got to have it all. You got to be super professional. So, you know, it depends on the world that you're in and what your aspirations are. A guy that we interviewed today on our podcast, we were impressed because he had all the formats, and that showed like this guy means business. This guy's professional. He's got all of it. So I think that just sends that message depending on the world that you want to be walking into. If you're just starting out in business and saying, hey, you don't need all that. I'd rather you put your money, just do the ebook and the paperback and put your money for those other two platforms somewhere else. Let's create a podcast for you, or let's put more money into your marketing, things that maybe are more necessary than having those other two when you're just starting out. So we're the company that's not going to push you to have things just so we can make money. We want our clients to be successful in their business. So, and we don't want you to buy 1,000 books either. Don't buy 1,000 books and have them in your garage, or if a publishing company tells you part of the deal is you got to buy X amount of books, run, because you don't need to have those books sitting there. There's print on demand now. I went to go speak in Boston, and I ordered 100 books and had them drop shipped there. I'm not carrying my books around and having them with me. So, we
wow, yeah.
On your business.
Well, yeah. Yes. I barely want to carry my makeup kit when I travel, let alone 100 books.
Yeah, nobody wants to do that or pay to, so that's what you do. So, so it's different, kind of different for everybody. So, technology changes. We try and stay up on technology. Well, I shouldn't say we try, we do. As everything changes, we're always staying up on what's new in publishing, what's new in social media that works for authors and their businesses.
I love it. You have done a fantabulous job. How can my budding authors get in touch with you if they want to reach out to you and avail themselves of your company's services?
Sure. Go to our website, Elite Online Publishing. If you hit the contact button, there's a form there you can fill out, like a submission form. And that's probably the best way because we check those all the time, and then we get back to you. And you can check us out on Facebook. So Facebook at Elite Online Publishing. And look at our podcast. We're Elite Expert Insider Podcast is our podcast.
Excellent. I am putting a link to your website in the Facey chat, and I'll make sure when I post the podcast that it's in the information for the podcast. You've just done a fantastic job, ma'am. I mean, just.
Well, my name's Melanie, so I had to live up to you, Melanie.
Well, I appreciate that. No, you really did. And I'm sure anybody who's thinking about writing a book who has listened to you today is encouraged for sure, because that they can do it.
2019, the year of the author, not the writer, the author.
Oh, listen to you. I love it. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Just really a fantastic job. I want to thank everybody in the Facebook chat, everybody out in SHR Media Land. I, of course, want to thank my sponsors, Eva Rosenberg, a.k.a. The Tax Mama, Robert Houston, a.k.a. MrCreditRepair.biz, and John Campbell from SendOutCards.com. Personal Touch. Make sure you get in touch with him and get yourself some personal cards. You guys are fantastic. Remember, all of this is very important because after all, it's your money. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was that.